This is Toni Preckwinkle, President of the Cook County Board of Commissioners. I'm at our Cook County Emergency Operations Center with Bill Barnes, our Executive Director of Emergency Management and Regional Security, and Ted Berger, who's Chief Deputy Director of EMRS. We'll start with you. Bill, why don't you tell us a little bit about what brought you to Cook County government and emergency management?
My love of public service. I have been involved in public service for some time. It's a pursuit that I strongly recommend all the residents explore. It's a very uplifting pursuit. I began with a stint in the Peace Corps for 3 years in Central Africa, and after that became a lawyer for several years, and then was employed by the state of Illinois in several public safety agencies, and the transition to Illinois, to Cook County's emergency management was a natural next step. Ted?
Oh, well, thank you for the invitation to join you today. We're grateful that you've hosted us. I've had the good fortune to work in government for about 17 years now. 10 of those years were with the state of Illinois, moving through a variety of different agencies, but ultimately arriving at the State Fire Marshal's office, where I worked my way up to being Chief of Staff there. After my time with the state, I moved to the city of Chicago and served as Chief of Staff for the city's Office of Emergency Management Communications, which is sort of our counterpart within the city of Chicago to what we do here. And then I had a great opportunity to come serve you and work with Bill here at Emergency Management and Regional Security. Interesting side note is that I've also spent 15 years of my life as either a volunteer or part-time firefighter as a side job, which is sort of the nexus to why I've always been interested in emergency management and public safety.
All right, so you've got a professional side, and on the volunteer side, you're a first responder.
Absolutely.
All right, very good, very good. So, sort of what does the Department of Emergency Management and Regional Security do in ordinary times?
Well, in ordinary times, it does exactly what it's doing right now. That is, it prepares itself, it trains itself, it educates itself, and by itself, I mean the county at large. I mean the municipalities, its first responders. Basically, we gear up for a situation just like this. We put ourselves as a county, as a department, in the best possible position to respond to an emergency such as the COVID-19 pandemic. Naturally, we would never have expected a disaster of this scope.
Magnitude,
one that impacts not just our county and every single municipality in it, but the entire state, the entire country, the entire world.
That's true. Emergency management is an odd industry. Most of our organization is planning for, preparing for. We do have a response element that does respond around 100 times a year to different communities and isolated disaster events. If you think about localized flooding events or fire events that exceed the capacity of that municipality.
Tornadoes
or tornado, absolutely right. But this one, no doubt, has brought together all of our skills and all of the knowledge that we've gained and the expertise of our staff and the entire county, because it is such a unique disaster response.
So your ordinary activities are more around preparedness for exactly this kind of situation. Not a natural disaster, but a healthcare crisis.
Right.
All right. Tell us a little bit about this operations center. Let's start with that, Bill.
Well, we are in the county's Emergency Operations Center, and it is built with the single goal of encouraging collaboration. I like to say that no individual unit of government could possibly respond to a disaster alone, especially one of the magnitude as the COVID-19 pandemic. So this is the place where all of the county stakeholders, all of our partners who own a little aspect of the response, come together, look at the problem set, and work together to come up with a solution. It is this collaboration that brings in Department of Transportation and Highways, brings in Animals and Rabies Control, brings in the Sheriff's Office, brings in the Bureau of Finance, because at the end of the day, we have to pay for all this, and we need to know the mechanisms by which we can secure the funding to ensure that we have the response. So the Emergency Operations Center is the hub of the entire county's response to this disaster. It helps informs decision. It receives a lot of information behind us, or is just an example of some of the information that we gather and interpret and use to drive the county's response. and then we push the information out to those in the field who are actually doing the response.
So I've been coming for several weeks to your kind of end-of-day briefings. How would you characterize those?
Well, it's basically the idea of the end of the day briefing is to recap what's been done on the day before and to reflect on the challenges that lie ahead, because this is an unprecedented situation, one where we can't anticipate every single challenge that is going to face us. So we try to work with our partners in the room. Obviously, given the situation, not everyone can be in the room, so we have a lot of virtual partners, people who are calling in and participating in a virtual sense, but to begin to look beyond the immediate as to the problems and challenges that lie in the weeks and months ahead. Okay?
Absolutely. You know, this is a coordination and collaboration hub. When you think about the event that we're facing, or even think about a smaller localized event, be it a flood or a tornado response, significant events in their own right, but certainly not to the scale and scope as this one. But there are so many moving parts because of the nature of the complex response elements. Someone or something has to serve as the coordination and collaboration hub. The county's Emergency Operations Center serves as that. We at EMRS are sort of the custodians. We are professional emergency managers, but we also maintain and keep this Emergency Operations Center activated and working so that it can benefit all of the county's departments, the residents, the non-governmental entities, the other units of government that are our partners to solve problems. Speaking
of partners, why don't you share with our audience some of the partners who participate in these briefings and who work with us on a day-to-day basis?
Absolutely. So at the local level, you know, Cook County is a very diverse county, as we all know, and there's 135 municipalities, including the city of Chicago, which is a very large stakeholder. So we're constantly in contact with them. We use a variety of electronic mechanisms to stay in touch with them. Then, of course, there's the layer of the county's response. So all of the departments, as Bill mentioned, we have upwards of 40 different county departments that are participating in this response effort, each of them owning a certain area of responsibility and expertise, and they report out at these briefings. Above our county partners, there's our state and federal partners, which we're in constant contact with. A unique partnership that I think we like to highlight is the value of the Illinois National Guard in supporting our response capabilities. When the local municipality and the county cannot meet their needs, we can then request the state to backfill and help us, and the National Guard has been that in some ways. And then the last item I would say is non-governmental entities like the Salvation Army, the Red Cross, the Greater Chicago Food Depository. They're all playing key roles in our response, and we could not, have the coordination and collaboration without their engagement.
Well, thank you. Let me ask, in addition to our sort of normal partners, we had a kind of extraordinary visit recently from Poland. Why don't you share that with our audience?
Yeah, I certainly will. And this was an exciting opportunity for us all. Madam President, you hosted a delegation from the Polish Minister of Defense. It was a medical team that comprised of civilian and military individuals who had responded to the COVID-19 pandemic in Poland, but more importantly, had been dispatched to Italy in some of the hardest hit regions, and they were here on an information sharing mission to share their lessons learned, but also to experience what we at Cook County and the state of Illinois and even America are doing and learn from us. And I'm excited to say that they were very impressed with the scope of the data that we have been gathering and aggregating and using to make smart decisions. We have the Social Vulnerability Index. We have the Cook County Department of Public Health Shiny app that gives us a real-time picture of where the disease is hitting our county the hardest so that we can devote the resources, time and energy to those areas that are most in need.
So tell us about the Shiny app.
The Shiny app is something you can find it on the Cook County Department of Public Health website. It, as I said, is a real-time data as it relates to case counts and rates of infection throughout the county. It tracks the number of cases each day. It tracks the number of deaths each day, both on the county and state and national level. But more importantly, it breaks them down by gender, by race, by geographic location. And one of the most important tools that I use in considering the impacts on the county is sort of what I call the heat map, where they highlight or they show where the rates of disease are and the increased incidents of disease rate invariably are in our underserved, under-resourced communities in the south and the southwest sides, which again drives the work that we're doing here at Cook County EMRS.
So it helps you to identify hotspots.
Yes, and devote resources to those areas, yes.
All right. Listen, I want to thank both of you for joining us. Bill Barnes, Executive Director, and Chief Deputy Ted Berger. Bill, do you have any kind of final words for us?
You know, I think the final word would be we're all in this together, and we all have to do our part. If you're not a first responder out there on the front lines doing your job and you're quarantined at home or sheltering in place, you know, we all have a role to play, whether it's wearing a mask, whether it's social distancing, whether it's, you know, doing everything you can to stem the spread of this disease, because, you know, if one of us fails, we all fail. So again, I just encourage you all to consider the greater good and do what you can to help the county out.
Bill and Ted, I want to thank you for joining us and thank you for your good work. We're grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.